Tonight we're diving into the peculiar social rules of the Victorian era. Trust me, these rules are something else so strange they'll make your own awkward moments feel like nothing. And if you find these stories interesting, please consider liking or subscribing. I'm curious about where you're all tuning in from, so drop a comment and let me know your location and the time there. It's wild to think how people around the world are tuning into this at all hours. Now, let's journey back to Victorian England. Buckle up, it's going to be quite an experience. So, let's imagine this: you've just woken up in London around the 1850 seconds. Your eyes open, and you're lying in a narrow iron bed. It's definitely not the comfy foam mattress you're used to. This bed is filled with horsehair, kind of prickly and uneven. The room is freezing. The fire that was burning when you fell asleep has burned out, leaving only glowing embers enough to reveal the outline of the furnitural large wardrobe, a wash basin, and a small mirror on the dressing table. The sound of carriage wheels on cobblestones echoes faintly outside. You can hear a dog barking somewhere down the street. The air, thick with coal smoke. Always coal smoke in London. It seeps in everywhere through cracks in the windows and under the door. The faintest hint of bergamot oil from your perfume bottle lingers in the air, a sharps, airy scent everyone is wearing these days. The cotton sheets around you aren't soft, but they're clean. Your nightgown is flannel buttoned up all the way to your neck. Heaven forbid anyone see your neck or wrist while you sleep, that would be a scandal. On the small table beside you, there's a bell. You grab that and give it a ring. Before long you hear footsteps on the stairs, and your maid Mary appears at the door, already dressed for the day despite the early hour. "Good morning, miss," she curtsies. "Shall I open the curtains?" Without waiting for your answer, she strides to the window, drawing back the heavy velvet curtains to let in the dim grade A light. The glass is dirty, coated in soot from the chimneys. "What shall we wear today, miss?" Mary asks, her hands moving toward the wardrobe to pick out a dress. She reveals a series of options, each one more extravagant than the last. And here's where you get your first lesson in Victorian social rules. In this world, what you wear, how you talk, who you talk to, and everything else is governed by a complex set of codes so intricate that one slip could ruin you socially. Mary reminds you that you have a morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11 o'clock a.m. and then tea with your cousin Emily at 4:00. These morning calls are a key part of the Victorian social code, even though ironically, they don't happen in the morning. They actually take place between 3 o'clock a.m. and 5 o'clock a.m. in the afternoon. Yes, that doesn't make any sense, but if you call them afternoon calls, people will think you're mad. The calls last exactly 15 minutes, no more, no less. You better have a pocket watch to time yourself, because staying longer than 15 minutes is considered extremely rude. Mary helps you dress, which is an ordeal in itself. First comes the shift, a long cotton slip. Then the corset. Oh, the corset. Mary tightens the laces around your waist. Tighter, you say, recalling that a proper Victorian lady's waist should be so small you can span it with your ends. Mary yanks harder, until you're barely able to breathe. Your ribs shift slightly, and your lungs can only fill halfway. This is the price of fashion after all. Next come the petticoats, 3 of them, each adding bulk to your lower half. After that, the crinoline. This is a steel cage that makes your skirt balloon out like a giant lampshade. Then, the dress goes on tight bodice, huge skirt. By the end of it, you're wearing at least 15 pounds of clothing. Mary finishes with your hair, pulling it tightly back from your face and shaping it into a neat bun at the nape of your neck. No loose strands. Everything must be controlled. "Will you be wearing gloves or mittens today, miss?" Mary asks, holding up both options. You opt for gloves, recalling that a proper Victorian lady never exposes her bare hands in public. They must remain mysteriously hidden at all times, an odd modesty rule, but one that must be followed. As Mary helps you into your gloves, you remember another important rule: no heavy perfume. Queen Victoria herself has declared that the musky perfumes of the past era are vulgar. Instead, you lightly dab some lemon and bergamot oil on your handkerchief. Just enough to smell fresh, but not enough to make it seem like you're trying to seduce anyone. Finally, fully dressed, you make your way downstairs for breakfast. The house is bustling, servants are sweeping, dusting, polishing. The cook has been up since 5 o'clock preparing the meal. In the dining room, Your father is sitting at the head of the table, reading his newspaper. Your mother sits at the other end, already writing letters. Both are dressed, of course. In Victorian society, there's no such thing as casual clothes for breakfast. Good morning, you say, taking your seat. Your father lowers his newspaper slightly to nod at you before returning to it. Public displays of affection are not the Victorian way. No hugs, no kisses on the cheek, even between family members. Breakfast is a big delay, full spread of eggs, bacon, kidneys, toast, and porridge. Victorians consider it the most important meal of the day. You pick at your food, unable to eat much because your corset is so tight that even the smallest bite feels uncomfortable. Your mother gives you some advice for the day, reminding you that Mrs. Hartley's daughter has just become engaged. Be sure to congratulate her, but don't ask too many questions about the wedding. That would be rude. Curiosity is vulgar. You nod, mentally noting that this is one of the many unspoken rules of Victorian society. Acknowledge important life events, but don't show too much interest. After breakfast, you have a few hours to kill before your morning call. You decide to practice needlepoint, a proper feminine activity. Idle hands, after all, are the devil's workshop, and a proper Victorian lady is never idle. You sit by the window in the drawing room, stitching a pattern of flowers onto a piece of linen. Your mother joins you, pulling out her own needlework. I saw Mrs. Fairchild yesterday, she says casually. Her son has returned from university. You continue stitching, though your heart races a bit. Thomas Fairchild. You danced with him at a ball last season before he went away to Oxford. He was kind, and he didn't step on your feet. Unlike most men, that alone made him stand out. How nice, you say, your voice as neutral as you can manage. Your mother presses on. She mentioned that he asked after you. Your cheeks warm, but you keep your expression composed. Did he? That's very civil of him. Your mother smiles slightly, clearly satisfied with your restrained response. Victorian courtship is all about subtlety, and showing too much interest in a man, especially before marriage, is seen as improper. The key is to pretend you're not playing the game, even while you are. At precisely 11:15 a.m. You put on your bonnet, gloves, and cloak, and head out with your mother for Mrs. Hartley's house. You carry a small card case, which holds your visiting cards. These cards are an essential part of the morning call ritual. Mrs. Hartley's house is only a few streets away, but you're careful not to walk too quickly. Victorian ladies are supposed to take small steps and maintain proper posture at all times. You keep your eyes downcast, making sure to look modest. As you walk, men tip their hats to you, and you acknowledge them with the slightest nod. No eye contact, of course. A gentleman would never speak to a lady he hasn't been formally introduced to, and a lady would never speak to a man she doesn't know. You arrive at Mrs. Hartley's precisely at 11's irif. Punctuality is crucial in Victorian society. Arriving too early suggests you have too little to do, and arriving late suggests you're disorganized. The butler answers the door, and you hand him your visiting cards, one from you and one from your mother. He takes them on a small silver tray and leads you into the drawing room where Mrs. Hartley and her daughter Charlotte are waiting. Everyone curtsies, there's no hugging or cheek kissing. Physical contact is kept to a minimum. Such a kind visit, Mrs. Hartley says, gesturing for you to sit. You arrange yourself carefully on a small sofa, mindful of your enormous skirt. Sitting gracefully in a crinoline is an art. You have to perch right on the edge of the seat, carefully balancing so the steel cage around your lower half doesn't make you tip over. We were so pleased to hear your good news, your mother says, nodding toward Charlotte. She blushes and murmurs, thank you, Miss Wilson, eyes modestly downcast. Mrs. Hartley adds, Mr. Edwards is very kind, and that's it. That's all the information you're going to get about Charlotte's engagement. You won't know what her fiancé is like, when the wedding is, or how they met. Asking such personal questions would be prying, and prying is utterly inappropriate. In Victorian society, you acknowledge life events, but never ask too many details. It's just not done. The conversation moves on to safe topics, the weather cloudy, but not raining, recent sermons at church uplifting but brief, and a recent musical performance you all attended accomplished, but not too flashy. Everything is described in the most moderate terms possible. Strong opinions, those are for the lower classes. After exactly 15 minutes, your mother gives you a nearly imperceptible nod. That's your cue. You both stand up, And after another round of courtesies and pleasantries, you're back out on the street. Another morning call successfully completed. Well, that went well, your mother says as you walk back home. Charlotte looked well, didn't she? Very well, you agree. In Victorian conversation, the highest compliment you can give someone is that they look well. It's vague, but it's acceptable. Back at home, you have a light lunch. Then spend the afternoon reading an appropriate book. Nothing too exciting or romantic, of course. Novels that stir emotions are seen as dangerous for young women. At 4 o'clock a.m., you have tea with your cousin Emily, who's coming over to your house. It's similar to a morning call, but slightly less formal since she's family. Still, you maintain perfect posture, speak in a measured tone about proper subjects, and avoid anything that could be considered gossip. After Emily leaves, you have a few hours to yourself before dinner. You practice the piano for exactly 1 hour. Not too long though, because in Victorian society, if you practice too much, people might think you have ambitions of becoming a professional musician. You should keep those talents in check. Dinner is at 7 o'clock a relatively informal meal since you're not entertaining guests. Still, you change into a dress slightly fancier than your day dress. Victorians change outfits multiple times a day, and each outfit is designed to fit the specific occasion. At the dinner table, conversation is polite but not particularly personal. Your father discusses business matters with your brother. Your mother talks about her charity work. You listen attentively, offering a gentle opinion when directly asked. After dinner, the family retires to the drawing room. Your father and brother might have brandy and cigars in the study, but ladies don't drink anything stronger than cherry, and they definitely don't smoke. Instead, use it at the piano and play for the family or work on your needlepoint some more. By 10 o'clock a.m., everyone is ready for bed. Another day of adhering to Victorian propriety comes to a close as Mary helps you undress, carefully removing the layers one by one. When the corset finally comes off, you can breathe again. Will you need anything else, miss? Mary asks, helping you into your nightgown. No, thank you, Mary, you reply, settling into bed with a small sigh of relief. Mary curtsies and leaves, taking the oil lamp with her. The room falls into darkness, except for the faint glow from the embers in the fireplace. You lie there, thinking about the day, all the rules, and all the restraint. It's exhausting, but there's also something comforting about knowing exactly what is expected of you at every moment. As you drift off to sleep, you wonder what tomorrow will bring in this world of rigid propriety and hidden feelings. You'll have to navigate a formal dinner party tomorrow, which means a whole new set of rules to remember. But that can wait until morning. For now, you let the distant sounds of the city lull you to sleep. Your last thought before sleep overtakes you is of Thomas Fairchild and his kind eyes. In a world where so much is restrained and controlled, even the smallest connection feels significant. You wonder when you'll see him again and what complicated dance of social rules will follow. Morning arrives with the sound of Mary drawing back the curtains. The pale winter sun barely penetrates the ever-present London fog. Another day of Victorian propriety awaits. Good morning, Miss Mary says, placing a cup of hot chocolate on your bedside table. It's going to be a busy day. You sip the chocolate as Mary lays out your morning dress. Today is especially important. You're attending a formal dinner party at the Fairchilds' house. Yes, those Fairchilds. Thomas will be there. The morning passes quickly with preparations. Your mother insists that you practice the piano for 2 hours instead of your usual one. The Fairchilds may ask you to play, she says. Mrs. Fairchild mentioned their new pianoforte. It would be rude to decline. Another Victorian rule to remember: never refuse a direct request to perform a talent, but also never appear too eager. It's a delicate balance. After lunch, you take a light walk with your mother in the nearby park. The crisp winter air is cleaner than most homes, where coal fires fill the rooms with soot. Ladies stroll along the pathways, nodding politely to acquaintances while gentlemen tip their hats as they pass. Remember, your mother says quietly as you walk. At dinner, you'll be seated according to rank. Don't act surprised by where you are placed, whatever it may be. You nod. The Victorian dinner table is an unspoken hierarchy. The most important male guest sits to the right of the hostess. The most important female guest sits to the right of the host. Everyone else is seated according to their social standing. Being seated near the bottom of the table is a clear message about your status. but being placed too high can also draw unwanted attention. Back at home, preparations for the evening begin in earnest. A formal dinner party requires your finest appearance. Mary runs a bath for you, adding rose oil to the water. The bathroom is chilly despite the small fire burning in the grate. You bathe quickly, shivering as you step out onto the cold floor. Then comes the dressing. Tonight requires full evening attire. Your corset is tightened even more than usual. Your crinoline is wider and your gown is a pale blue silk with delicate lace trim. The neckline is lower than your day dress, showing your collarbones and the smallest hint of shoulder, the maximum amount of skin a respectable unmarried woman can show. Your hair is arranged in an elaborate style with silk flowers pinned among the curls. A light dusting of rice powder gives you the fashionable pale complexion. No rouge, of course, only actresses and women of questionable virtue wear obvious makeup. "You look beautiful," Miss Mary says, stepping back to admire her work. You hardly recognize yourself in the mirror. You look every inch the proper Victorian lady, poised, elegant. Your waist impossibly small, your skirt absurdly wide. Fashion is suffering, but it must be obeyed. Your father has arranged for a carriage to take you to the Fairchilds' home. Walking would ruin your carefully arranged appearance, and besides, arriving in a carriage instead of on foot displays your family as prosperity. The carriage pulls up outside the Fairchilds' townhouse, located on one of London's most fashionable streets. Lights blaze from every window and a footman in livery opens the carriage door to help you step down. Inside, the house is warm and brightly lit. Gaslighting, the latest modern convenience, illuminates the entrance hall. A maid takes your cloak, revealing your evening gown. The butler announces you as you enter the drawing room, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson and Miss Jane Wilson. All heads turn as you curtsy and greet Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild. And there, standing beside his mother, is Thomas. He is taller than you remember, and his evening clothes accentuate his broad shoulders. He bows in greeting, perfectly balanced, neither too deep, which would be obsequious, nor too shallow, which would be disrespectful. "Miss Wilson," he says, his voice low than you recall. "How pleasant to see you again." "Mr. Fairchild," you reply, your voice carefully controlled. "I trust Oxford agrees with you." A small smile crosses his face. "It does, thank you. Though London has attractions Oxford cannot claim." You exchange a few polite words before more guests arrive. The drawing room fills with polite conversation, each person making sure not to stay too long in one conversation. Everyone is careful to speak to everyone, moving about the room, never lingering too long with any one person. When dinner is finally announced, the complicated choreography of entering the dining room begins. The host, Mr. Fairchild, offers his arm to the highest minus ranking female guest. The highest minus ranking male guest offers his arm to the hostess. Everyone else spares off based on their social standing, forming a procession into the dining room. You find yourself paired with a middle minus age gentleman you've never met. Thomas is escorting an elderly lady in an elaborate turban. The dining room is dazzling with crystal, silver, and candlelight. The table gleams with polished silver and fine china. The place settings are overwhelming, multiple forks, spoons, knives, each one for a specific course. Using the wrong one would be a social catastrophe. You're seated about halfway down the table, not at the bottom, which is encouraging, but not at the top either. Thomas is seated on the opposite side, several seats away. During the dinner, you primarily converse with the gentlemen seated to your left and right, never across the table. The conversation revolves around safe topics, recent theatrical performances or exhibitions, and the weather. Politics, religion, and personal matters are off minus limits. You notice Thomas watching you from across the table, but when your eyes meet, he quickly looks away. In this world of rigid social rules, even eye contact carries weight. After dessert, the ladies leave the dining room, following the long minus standing Victorian custom. The men stay behind to discuss business, politics, and other topics considered unsuitable for women. You follow the other women to the drawing room, where you're expected to engage in conversation with the other ladies. As expected, Mrs. Fairchild asks you to play the piano for the group. You can't refuse, of course, but you also can't appear too eager. "If you wish it, Mrs. Fairchild," you reply honestly, but you're sure there are more accomplished musicians present. "Not at all, Mrs. Fairchild says, smiling. "We've all heard of your talent." You move to the piano, arranging your enormous skirt as best you can on the small bench. You play a piece by Mozart, a technically challenging piece, outfit isn't too flamboyant. The ladies clap politely when you finish, and you return to your seat, hands trembling slightly. But no one notices after all. A proper Victorian lady never shows nervousness. After a while, the gentlemen join the ladies in the drawing room. Their clothes smell of cigars, and some have a flushed complexion from the port they've been drinking. The younger men circulate among the ladies, while the older ones settle into chairs. Thomas makes his way toward you, stopping to exchange pleasantries with several other guests to avoid appearing too eager. "I enjoyed your performance, Miss Wilson," he says once he reaches you. "Mozart, was it?" "Yes," you reply. His sonata in C major. "You played with great feeling," Thomas continues, his tone respectful but genuine. But appropriate restraint, of course. You smile slightly, feeling the warmth of his words. But you maintain your composure. "Thank you, Mr. Fairchild." You both continue discussing music in an equally proper yet intimate manner. It's clear that you're both evaluating each other, even as you speak about the most neutral of topics. Is he intelligent? Is she well read? Does her temperament suit? A little while later, Thomas excuses himself to offer his congratulations to Charlotte Hartley and her fiancé. You try not to show how disappointed you are, but you can't help but feel a small pang. "It was pleasant conversing with you, Mr. Fairchild," you say, keeping your tone measured. "The pleasure was mine, Miss Wilson," he replies with a bow. Your mother appears at your side. "He seems quite attentive," she murmurs. "Does he?" You reply, trying to hide your interest. Your mother isn't fooled, but she simply nods. "Nothing scares away a suitor faster than a too eager young lady," she adds, before moving on to discuss something else. Later, the evening continues with more polite conversation, some card games, and the ongoing circulation of guests. No one ever stays too long in one conversation, maintaining the appearance of harmony. Everyone knows their roles and plays them well. At exactly 11 o'clock a.m., the first guests begin to leave. This signals the proper time for everyone else to depart. Your father catches your mother's eye, and she gives him a small nod. "It's time to go." You say your goodbyes, thank the hosts for their hospitality, and make your way out. Thomas is nearby, bowing over your hand one last time. "Until we meet again, Miss Wilson," he says softly. "Good evening, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, keeping your voice even, despite the flutter in your chest. Once outside, your carriage is waiting. As you settle into the seat, you allow yourself a small sigh of relief. The evening went well, no missteps, and Thomas seemed genuinely interested. "That went well," your father says, his approval clear. "A successful evening." Your mother agrees. Mrs. Fairchild mentioned they're hosting a small musical evening next week. "We should receive an invitation." Your heart skips a beat at the news. Another chance to see Thomas. You try to remain composed, but inside, you can't help the excitement. Back at home, Mary helps you undress, carefully hanging up your evening gown and putting away your jewelry. Your hair, so elaborately arranged, tumbles down your back as she removes the pins. "Did you enjoy yourself, miss?" she asks as she brushes out your hair. "It was a pleasant evening," you reply, maintaining your composure, though your mind is racing. Mary, of course, knows far more than you would like. She and the entire household have been keeping a close eye on everything. When Mary leaves, use it for a moment at your dressing table, gazing at your reflection. Your thoughts are a whirl of excitement and uncertainty. Did Thomas really seek you out tonight, or was it just another formality in the courtship process? You wonder what tomorrow might bring. Perhaps he'll call on you. Perhaps your mother will insist on discussing your wardrobe, another subtle sign of approval. Your heart pounds at the thought. The Victorian courtship process is like a dance, every step carefully controlled, every gesture measured. You've made it through the evening without a misstep, but it feels as though each step you take brings you closer to a decision that will change your life. You wonder what the next steps will be. And so, you drift off to sleep, the events of the evening still fresh in your mind. The distance between you and Thomas feels impossibly small, yet the rules of society seem to stretch further and further. But tomorrow, you'll have the opportunity to take another step, however carefully calculated it may be. The following morning, you wake early, though it's far earlier than the proper Victorian lady would usually rise. The excitement from last night still lingers in your mind. You can hardly believe how quickly everything is moving. You get dressed in a walking outfit suitable for the afternoon, a deep burgundy, will dress with matching gloves and bonnet. It's fashionable, but not overly showy. It's just right for a young lady of your standing, and especially appropriate for your upcoming trip to the Royal Academy with Thomas. As Mary finishes arranging your hair, she smiles softly, her voice almost teasing. "You look lovely, miss," she says. "If you don't mind me saying so." You return her smile, but the excitement in your chest is hard to hide. "Thank you, Mary," you reply. "I'll do my best to not disappoint." Downstairs, you find your mother waiting in the drawing room, already dressed and ready for the day. Her expression is calm, but there's a noticeable glint of satisfaction in her eyes. It's clear that, despite the apparent calm, she's equally eager for the day's events. "Are you ready?" she asks, looking up as you enter. "Yes, mother," you reply, smoothing down your dress. Your fingers tremble slightly. It's the first time you've had the chance to go anywhere without a chaperone. The realization makes you a little nervous, even though your mother will be right there with you. As you wait for Thomas to arrive, your mother gives you one last piece of advice, her voice soft yet firm. "Remember, enthusiasm is unbecoming in a young lady. Mr. Fairchild should feel as though he is earning your regard, not that it is being freely given." You nod, although inside, you feel a rush of excitement. Victorian courtship, with its intricate rules and expectations, has always felt a bit suffocating. But now, in the privacy of your own home, you're beginning to look forward to the moments when the rules may give way to something more real. At exactly 2 o'clock a.m., the doorbell rings. Thomas is punctual, a trait that only adds to his appeal. The butler shows him into the drawing room, where he bows to both you and your mother. "Mrs. Wilson, Miss Wilson," he says, his voice polite and composed. "I trust you are both well today." "We are, thank you, Mr. Fairchild," your mother responds with a smile. "It's a fine day for an exhibition." "It is indeed," Thomas agrees. "The carriage is ready whenever you are." You make your way to the carriage, with Thomas offering his arm, though his gaze occasionally drifts to yours. His usual composed exterior seems to have softened slightly, and you find yourself wondering if there's more beneath the surface than what he lets on. The carriage ride to the Royal Academy is short, but full of small, polite conversation. Thomas points out interesting landmarks along the way, mostly addressing your mother, but his glances toward you are frequent and not entirely impersonal. You try to keep your voice steady, replying in equally polite tones, though inside, you feel a flutter of excitement. This is, after all, the first time you've been out alone with him, even if your mother is with you. At the Royal Academy, the exhibitions are busy but not overcrowded. There are so many people, and you try your best to keep to the formality of the occasion. The paintings are impressive, and you find yourself admiring works of art you would never have expected to care about. Yet, there's something about the way Thomas discusses the exhibits that catches your attention. His insights are thoughtful, and you find yourself genuinely interested in his opinions. After a time, you run into a familiar face, none other than Emma Parker, a young lady you've seen around town. Her presence doesn't go unnoticed by Thomas, who greets her politely but does not linger. He moves the conversation forward, introducing you to other members of the social set and easing you through the awkwardness of the moment. As you continue through the galleries, you notice that Thomas stays close by your side. His attention seems to remain fixed on you, though he is careful not to appear too forward. He is always within arm's reach, but never crossing that line of propriety. You can feel the race of the moment, even though no one is saying anything. The social signals are so subtle, but they are there. Eventually, you all stop for refreshments in the Academy's small tea room. Thomas orders tea and small cakes for the three of you, and you sit down together. The room is crowded with fashionable guests, most of them engaging in polite conversation. It's the same dance as always, a balance of restraint and cordiality. "I hope you're enjoying the exhibition, Miss Wilson," Thomas says, his voice soft as he looks at you. "Very much, Mr. Fairchild," you reply. "The new works by Turner are particularly impressive." Thomas smiles, clearly pleased by your response. "I thought you might appreciate them. I understand you enjoy painting yourself." You nod modestly. "Really, as an amateur, of course," you add, recalling the unspoken rule that a lady should never have professional ambitions in such things. "I dabble. I'd be interested in seeing your work sometime," Thomas says, his voice more genuine now, and he glances at your mother. "With your permission, of course." Your mother nods, her smile subtle but approving. Jane has several watercolors in our drawing room. Perhaps you'll see them on your next visit. The conversation moves along as you sip your tea, but something about Thomas' interest seems different this time. It feels as though he's no longer just playing by the rules, there's something more to it. You're not sure if it's genuine affection or merely part of the courtship game, but you can't help but wonder where this will go. As you leave the tea room, you notice a gentleman sitting nearby who's been watching your group with keen interest. He's a well-mannered dressed man in his middle years, with a calculating expression on his face. There's something about him that makes you uneasy. Thomas notices your discomfort and immediately addresses it. "Is everything all right, Miss Wilson?" he asks quietly, his voice carrying a note of concern. You lower your voice slightly. "That gentleman seems to be watching us rather intently." Thomas glances in his direction. "Ah, Lord Barrington. Don't concern yourself with him, Miss Wilson. Your mother, too, has noticed the man." "Lord Barrington, I wasn't aware he had returned to London society," she says. Her voice neutral but tinged with something you can't quite place. You feel a flicker of curiosity. "Do you know him, Mother?" The exchange between your mother and Thomas is subtle, but you sense a shared understanding. Lord Barrington, it seems, is not someone you should associate with, but no one says anything directly. It's just one more lesson in the unwritten rules of Victorian society. Gossiping or asking too many questions about another's reputation is never done. When the exhibition ends, Thomas escorts you and your mother back to the carriage. He is careful to remain formal, yet there's a quiet intensity in his manner that speaks volumes. As the carriage moves through London's streets, you feel the weight of the evening's events settling around you. It's clear that this courtship is moving forward, and the rules are becoming more difficult to navigate. As the carriage pulls up to your home, you step down, carefully adjusting your skirt. Thomas follows you to the door, where he bids you farewell with the same respectful bow he has given all evening. "I hope you enjoyed the exhibition, Miss Wilson," he says. "I did. Thank you," you reply, keeping your tone polite and composed. There's a slight flutter in your chest as you acknowledge the kindness in his voice, but you carefully hide your emotions behind a mask of calm. Your mother, always quick to observe the smallest details, smiles at Thomas. "Thank you for accompanying us, Mr. Fairchild. It was a lovely outing." Thomas bows again, his expression more relaxed now that the formalities are over. "It was my pleasure. I hope to call on you again soon, Miss Wilson, if you'll permit me." You nod graciously, though inwardly your thoughts race. Another visit, and another step in the ever-minus advancing courtship. It's becoming clear that Thomas has intentions that go beyond mere social formality, but he's still playing the game by the rules. Your mother watches him leave with a satisfied smile, and you can't help but wonder if she's thinking the same thing. She knows, of course, that things are moving quickly. Soon, you'll be engaged, and the reality of Victorian courtship will become a permanent part of your life. It's exciting but also overwhelming. There's so much at stake. After dinner, you retire to the drawing room, where you and your mother sit in comfortable silence. The rules of propriety dictate that a lady must never show too much enthusiasm or excitement over her suitor, so you make sure to keep your expressions restrained. Your mother, however, doesn't have to say a word to let you know how pleased she is. She's already planning your future in her mind, considering the wardrobe changes you'll need, the new social circles you'll enter, and the expectations that will come with your new status. Mr. Fairchild seems to be very attentive. Your mother comments, her voice measured but warm. "I believe he's a man of serious character. If this courtship continues on its current path, we will need to start thinking about your TRUSO. It's never too early to prepare." You nod, though the word TRUSO sends a jolt through you. It's an essential part of Victorian engagement, the collection of clothing, linens, and personal items that a bride brings into her marriage. It's an expected step, one that reflects the seriousness of the engagement, but it also feels like a heavy responsibility. Later that evening, as you lie in bed, your mind continues to race. The next step is clear: you'll need to navigate the next phase of courtship carefully, balancing the strict social codes with your own growing feelings. Thomas' attentiveness is unmistakable, but how much of it is genuine affection, and how much of it is simply part of the courtship process, it's hard to say. You turn over in bed, pulling the covers tighter around you as the faint glow of the gas lamps outside casts a soft light into your room. The distant sounds of the city outside fade into the background as you begin to drift off to sleep. In the world of Victorian propriety, where every move is watched and every word measured, the smallest moment can carry the most weight. You think of Thomas again, at his attentive gaze and the way his eyes brightened when he looked at you earlier. Perhaps, just perhaps, there's something more to this than just the rules of society. But for now, all you can do is wait for the next step. It's a dance after all, and every step brings you closer to something new, something unknown. Tomorrow is another day, another opportunity to navigate the rules of society. And though you've learned to play the game, you can't help but wonder what might happen if you step out of bounds just a little. The following day arrives, and with it a sense of anticipation you can't quite shake. You awake with the sun still hidden behind the thick London fog. Another chilly, overcast morning. Mary brings you a cup of hot chocolate, a little comfort before the day's business begins. Your mother has already prepared for the next step in your courtship with Thomas. She's been talking about the upcoming dinner party at the Fairchild and the potential changes to your wardrobe that might soon follow. You can already feel the weight of expectations starting to settle around you, but you push the thoughts aside for now. Today, at least, you are simply expected to be the perfect Victorian young lady, navigating the dance of propriety with grace and ease. You dress carefully, taking the time to ensure every detail is perfect. Your gown is a simple, yet elegant green silk, a new addition to your wardrobe. As Mary ties your corset, you feel a slight discomfort, but it's nothing new. Fashion demands it. You look quite lovely, miss, Mary says with a smile, though there's something knowing in her gaze. She, too, is well aware of the changes that are happening. Thank you, Mary, you reply softly, adjusting the delicate lace on your dress. You've learned to wear the layers of clothing under expectation with a quiet elegance. This is the world you've grown up in after all. Downstairs, your mother awaits in the drawing room, ready for the afternoon outing. She's already made plans for the day this time. It's a visit to a local art exhibition, but you can't say you're particularly excited about the art itself. The outing is yet another piece of the courtship puzzle. You'll be accompanied by Thomas again, and this time, the social codes demand even more from you. You know that your interactions will be scrutinized, that every glance and every gesture will be measured. That precisely 2 o'clock. Then, the doorbell rings. Your heart skips a beat as the butler announces Mr. Thomas Fairchild. And in he walks, every inch the perfect Victorian gentleman. His presence fills the room, and you can't help but notice how different he seems in private. His composure softens, and his attention focuses more on you than on the world around him. Good afternoon, Miss Wilson. Mrs. Wilson, Thomas says, bowing as he enters the room. His eyes linger on you for a brief moment, and for the first time, you sense that something deeper might be behind his gaze. Good afternoon, Mr. Fairchild, your mother replies with a smile that is warm but still controlled. Are you ready to join us for the exhibition? I am indeed, Mrs. Wilson, Thomas responds. Shall we depart? As you all step into the carriage, there's a slight shift in the air. The ride through the foggy streets of London feels different today. Maybe it's the quiet anticipation of what's to come. Or maybe it's the sense that you and Thomas are becoming more familiar with one another, though still within the boundaries of propriety. The exhibition itself is busy, though not overcrowded. You walk through the galleries with your mother and Thomas, keeping pace with the carefully orchestrated rhythm of the day. Thomas speaks with your mother about the exhibits, but every so often his attention drifts toward you, his gaze softer now, more intimate. There's a noticeable difference in the way he speaks to you compared to the others. The formality has disappeared, but there's something else, something unspoken that you can't quite place. After a time, you find yourselves at a quiet corner of the exhibition, away from the hustle and bustle. Thomas glances around, ensuring no one else is nearby, before turning to you with a slightly more relaxed expression. I must admit, Thomas says quietly, this is my favorite piece. The subtlety of the light in this painting is remarkable. You follow his gaze and nod in agreement, but what strikes you more than the painting itself is the genuine way he speaks to you without the usual careful formalities. It's as though he's allowing himself to be a little more human around you. I agree, you reply, your voice soft and thoughtful. It does seem to capture something so delicate, almost fragile. Thomas nods, but his gaze doesn't shift from yours. For a moment, the air between you seems to hold its breath, as if the entire room is waiting for something to happen. But then as quickly as the moment appeared, he looks away, smoothing over his features once again. We should join your mother, he says, his voice steady. We don't want to keep her waiting. The rest of the exhibition proceeds with the usual quiet conversations and polite observations. As you leave, Thomas again offers his arm, and you walk together back to the carriage. The weight of the day's interactions doesn't settle until later, when you're safely back at home. Even now, as you sit in the drawing room, you find yourself wondering about the small moments, the moments when you thought Thomas might have felt something beyond the rules of Victorian courtship. Their mother, as usual, is already planning the next steps. Mr. Fairchild mentioned that he would like to speak with your father tomorrow afternoon. She says casually, her gaze sweeping over you. She gathers her needlework. You nod, trying to maintain composure. What about? I believe he intends to seek your father's approval, she replies. The next step, Jane. He must formally ask permission to address you. You're silent for a moment, the implications of her words sinking in. The courtship is moving faster than you expected. Soon, this will no longer be just a dance of propriety. The rules will change again, and the next phase of your life will begin. As the evening progresses, you begin to understand just how much is riding on this. The rules of courtship are clear, but they are also heavy. Every word, every gesture is meaning. And yet, within this framework, you begun to feel something real, something that transcends the formality of it all. When you retire for the evening, your mind races. The next steps are unfolding before you, and they feel both inevitable and frightening. But you know one thing for sure, this courtship is no longer just about playing the game. There's something more between you and Thomas. And perhaps in time, you'll be able to step beyond the rules and find a life that is truly your own. The following day arrives, and with it, a tension that you can't quite shake. The knowledge that Thomas will be calling on your father weighs heavily on your mind. The decision once made will change the course of your life forever. You can't help but think about the conversations that will take place behind closed doors, conversations that are all too familiar in Victorian society, but ones that still carry such immense significance. You wake early, the sound of the city still muffled by the thick London fog. Mary helps you dress, this time in a more casual morning dress, a stuffed grey wolf that's both practical and dignified. There's a quiet excitement in the air, but you keep it hidden, as you've been taught. Excitement, after all, is never appropriate for a young lady in your position. You must appear composed, calm, and ready for whatever comes next. Downstairs, your father is already in his study, the door ajar as he reviews papers for the day. Your mother is quietly preparing for her own tasks, the morning moving along in its usual rhythm, but you can sense that today is different. There's an undercurrent of anticipation, something unspoken that's in the air between you all. You try to focus on your needlepoint, but the pattern on the linen blurs as your thoughts wander back to Thomas. At precisely 3 o'clock a.m., the butler's footsteps echo down the hall. The moment is here. You sit up straighter, your breath steady, and your hands calm, though inside your heart races. Mr. Fairchild has arrived, miss, the butler announces. You exchange a quick glance with your mother. Her expression is unreadable, but there's a glimmer of pride in her eyes. She stands, smoothing her dress, and nods to you. Come, Jane. Let's greet him together. You move toward the drawing room, your mind spinning with the weight of the moment. As you enter, Thomas is already there, standing before your father, bowing slightly. There's no mistaking the seriousness in his demeanor. Today, he is not just the charming young man you've come to know. He's here for something far more significant. Good afternoon, Mr. Fairchild, your father says, his tone businesslike but polite. Shall we get to it? Thomas stands straighter, his expression focused. Yes, sir. I hope in not intruding, but I've come to formally ask for your permission to address Miss Wilson with the intention of courting her. You feel your breath catch in your throat. This is at the moment you've been waiting for. And yet, it feels so sudden. You glance at your mother, who gives you a small, reassuring smile. Your father pauses, his expression unreadable, before he speaks again. I trust you have thought this through, Mr. Fairchild. This is not a decision to be made lightly. Thomas nods, his gaze steady. I have, sir. Miss Wilson is a woman of great intelligence and grace. I hold her in the highest regard, and I would be honored if you would permit me to pursue her hand in marriage. Your father studies him for a long moment, his eyes sharp, but there's a slight softening in his features. He turns to you then, his gaze unwavering. Jane, do you have any objections to this arrangement? He asks, his voice calm but firm. For a moment, it feels as if time stands still. Your heart races, but you maintain your composure. You think of the time you've spent with Thomas, the respect you've seen in his eyes, the genuine care he has shown, even within the confines of societal expectations. "No, father," you reply, your voice steady. "I have no objections." Your father nods slowly, as if coming to a decision. "Very well then, Mr. Fairchild. You have my permission to court my daughter." A rush of relief floods through you, though you keep your expression composed. This is the moment. You can feel the change in the air, the weight of the decision, the knowledge that the next steps will be determined by the decisions made today. "Thank you, sir," Thomas says, bowing once again. His eyes meet yours, and for the briefest of moments, you see there's something beyond the proper, controlled mask of Victorian society. There's a flicker of something deeper. Your mother speaks next, her voice gentle but firm. "We will make the appropriate arrangements, of course. Jane, we'll need to discuss your tea, are you so? Well, begin with that." Your heart skips a beat at the mention of the tea, where you saw the elaborate collection of personal items that a bride brings to her marriage. It's a heavy responsibility, but it's also a sign of how far things have progressed. You know, without needing to be told, that your life is now firmly in the realm of the future. Your future. The next few moments pass in a blur of formalities. Your mother and father exchange pleasantries with Thomas, discussing plans for upcoming visits and the social obligations that will come with a formal courtship. You, however, are lost in your thoughts. You're finally allowed to pursue a relationship with Thomas. But what does that truly mean? You can't shake the feeling that this is more than just a social formality. You felt something real when you've been with him. The rules of courtship, with their intricate codes and rituals, have always felt stifling. But now, with the formalities out of the way, you wonder if you might finally get to explore what's behind all the rules. Later that evening, after Thomas has left, you retreat to your room, your mind still racing. The world feels different now. The rules are the same, that they seem to carry a new weight. You'll have to navigate this new reality carefully, but for the first time, you feel like you're in control. This courtship is no longer just about following the rules, it's about the choices you'll make moving forward. And as you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, you can't help but wonder what will come next. The days following Thomas's formal request to court you feel surreal. Everything is moving so quickly, and yet it all seems perfectly in line with what Victorian society dictates. Your parents are already discussing arrangements for your tea, are you so? And your mother has started making subtle hints about the wedding, though nothing official has been set. It's a flurry of decisions, all perfectly orchestrated by the rules that have governed your life for so long. But in the midst of all the planning, something else is stirring within you. You've allowed yourself to entertain the idea that this might be more than just a match made out of duty. Your days are spent in a haze of preparations. You practice the piano as always, though your playing feels more mechanical than before. You work on your needlepoint, and your mother ensures that you stay busy with things that will reflect your diligence and propriety. Yet, as each day passes, you can't shake the growing excitement about your future with Thomas. You've never allowed yourself to think of courtship as anything more than a game of appearances. But now, you feel that perhaps, just perhaps, there might be a deeper connection between you. One afternoon, as you're sitting by the window in the drawing room, working on your latest needlepoint project, your mother enters, her expression calm but focused. "Jane," she says gently, "I've been speaking with Mrs. Fairchild about the wedding plans. The details are coming together nicely. We should start looking at the menu for the wedding breakfast." Your heart skips a beat at the mention of the wedding. You've been so caught up in the whirlwind of the courtship process that the reality of marriage has yet to fully sink in. But now, with the mention of the wedding breakfast, the first public celebration of your new life, it suddenly feels very real. Your mother continues, "We'll need to finalize the TRUSO as well. It's not just about the clothes, Jane, it's about presenting yourself as a proper lady. Someone who can manage a household, raise children, and run a family with dignity. You're about to step into a new role, and it's time to begin preparing for that." You nod, your mind racing. "Yes, mother, I understand." She smiles warmly. "I know you do. You're going to be a wonderful wife, Jane, and Thomas will be proud to have you." Her words hit you harder than expected. You've never really thought about marriage in terms of pride or companionship. It's always been about duty and propriety. But now, with the thought of Thomas' approval and his pride in you, the concept of marriage feels different. Maybe it could be more than just a social contract. Maybe, just maybe, there's room for affection, for mutual respect, and even love. Later that evening, after a dinner that passes with the usual pleasantries, your father speaks quietly with you, his voice firm but kind. Jane, you've made your decision. Now, we must move forward. Thomas will be coming by tomorrow to discuss the final arrangements. It's important that you're prepared for what comes next. His words are like a weight settling on your shoulders, but you nod, knowing that there is no going back now. The courtship is progressing, and soon, the next step will be the proposal. The following day arrives, and you wait with a sense of quiet anticipation for Thomas' arrival. When he finally appears at your door, his usual composure is evident. But there's something in the air between you, a tension that wasn't there before. "Good afternoon, Miss Wilson," Thomas says, bowing slightly. His eyes meet yours, and for a brief moment, it feels as though the formality of the situation falls away. There's an unspoken understanding between you, a connection that feels more tangible than ever before. "Good afternoon, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, your voice steady. You take in the sight of him, his sharp features, his dark hair, his perfectly tailored coat. He looks every bit the part of a proper Victorian gentleman, but there's something else in his gaze today. Something that hints at a deeper emotion, hidden beneath the layers of propriety. Your father greets him warmly, though there's a noticeable edge to his tone. This is a serious conversation, and everyone in the room knows it. Thomas, it's across from your father, and the two men begin discussing the final arrangements for your upcoming wedding. You and your mother listen in silence, though your thoughts are elsewhere. As the conversation continues, you steal glances at Thomas, trying to gauge his feelings. He seems focused, professional even, but every time your eyes meet, you sense a flicker of something else, something more personal. After a while, the discussion turns to the wedding date, the details of the tiramisu, and the arrangements for the ceremony. You're no longer just a passive participant. Your opinions are valued now as the woman who will soon be at the heart of the Fairchild family. Finally, after what feels like hours, the conversation begins to wind down. Your father gives a final nod of approval to Thomas, who stands and turns to you with a soft smile. "Miss Wilson," he says, "I look forward to seeing you tomorrow." You nod, your heart pounding in your chest. Tomorrow will be the day when Thomas will officially propose, and your life will be set on a new path. The next day feels like a slow march towards something inevitable, something that you've been preparing for without fully understanding what it will mean. As the day passes, you find yourself distracted, your mind constantly returning to the events of the previous evening. Thomas had come so close to crossing the line between propriety and something more real. There was a softness in his eyes that had not been there before, a look of something approaching warmth. But even now, the rules of Victorian society hold firm, and he is as controlled and composed as ever. Neri helps you dress in your finest gown for the occasion, a beautiful dress of pale lavender silk that complements your complexion. The fabric is soft, but the weight of the layers and the corset beneath remind you that, in this society, beauty is always accompanied by a certain level of discomfort. But you endure it, as you have been taught to do. The rules of society demand it. Downstairs, your mother is already waiting, her expression calm but alert, as always. She moves with purpose, directing the household as she prepares for the afternoon visit from Thomas. "You look lovely, Jane," she says as you enter the drawing room, her eyes scanning your appearance with the meticulous care only a mother could have. "I'm sure Mr. Fairchild will be pleased." You nod, but the thought of Thomas seeing you in your formal attire makes your stomach flutter. You've spent so much time preparing for this moment, yet now that it's here, you feel uncertain. There's something about the weight of the situation, about the realization that today might change everything, that fills you with a strange mixture of excitement and fear. At exactly 3 o'clock, and the butler announces Thomas' arrival. Your heart quickens. You exchange a brief, knowing glance with your mother before she stands and moves toward the door, her hands smoothing over her dress. "Mr. Fairchild," she says as she opens the door, her tone warm but formal. Thomas steps into the room looking every bit the gentleman, but there's something about him today that feels different. There's a slight tension in his posture, a subtle shift in the air between you both that makes your pulse race. "Good afternoon, Miss Wilson." "Mrs. Wilson," Thomas says, bowing with his usual grace. But when his eyes meet yours, you see a flicker of something more. His gaze lingers for just a moment longer than usual, and it sends a strange warmth through you, despite all the rules that bind you. "Good afternoon, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, your voice steady, though inside you feel a surge of emotion. It's all coming to a head now. There's no turning back. Your father, who has been waiting in the study, signals for Thomas to join him. The two men retreat into the study, and you and your mother are left behind, the silence between you heavy with anticipation. You can't help but wonder what's being discussed, what decisions are being made in that room. Will this be the moment? Will he propose? Minutes stretch into what feels like hours. You try to focus on the quiet murmur of the clock ticking, but her thoughts keep wandering back to Thomas and what might be unfolding just beyond the door. Your heart races, and you can feel the weight of your mother's gaze on you. She tends waiting, perhaps with more patience than you can muster. Finally, the door opens, and Thomas steps back into the drawing room. His face carefully composed, but his eyes betraying a subtle hint of emotion. "I have spoken with your father," he begins, his voice steady, but with an underlying warmth, "and I have received his blessing to address you formally." Your breath catches in your throat. This is it. The moment you've been waiting for. And yet, the words still catch in your chest. Your mother's face softens and she steps forward, a quiet but pleased smile on her lips. "Mr. Fairchild," she says, her voice gentle. "It is an honor to hear such words." You, however, remain silent for a moment, allowing the moment to settle in. Your father's approval is not just a formal step, it's a testament to the seriousness of your future. But it's not just about duty now. It's about what comes next, the proposal, the new life, and what Thomas' intentions truly mean for you. "I would be honored if you would allow me to court you, Miss Wilson," Thomas continues, his voice filled with sincerity. "And if after that, you find my character and intentions worthy, I would hope that you might consider marrying me." The room feels smaller now, the air thick with meaning. You feel a strange mixture of relief and uncertainty. The path is now set before you, and with it comes the weight of a new responsibility. But you also sense something else, something deeper in Thomas' words. It's not just about social propriety anymore. It's about trust, about taking the first step toward a future together. I would be honored as well." You finally manage, your voice soft but steady. "I accept." The words feel surreal as they leave your mouth. You feel the weight of them, and yet, they seem almost natural. This is your life now. The expectations, the rules, the courtship, everything that has led to this moment. But in that moment, all that matters is the future that now lies before you. The future that you will share with Thomas. Thomas smiles, his expression softening. "Thank you, Miss Wilson," he says, his voice filled with genuine gratitude. "I promise to be a husband worthy of you." After the proposal, everything shifts, and the reality of the future takes on a new meaning. The formalities are now behind you, and you can almost feel the weight of your new status settling in. You've agreed to marry Thomas Fairchild, and now there's no going back. The future that once seemed distant is now immediate, and every step you take feels guided by the rules of society. Yet there's a flicker of something personal beginning to take root. In the days following the proposal, there's little time to breathe. Your mother wastes no time in beginning the wedding preparations, and you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of decisions, none of which you can escape. The TRU, the wedding invitations, the final guest list, it's all a blur of busywork designed to keep you moving forward. Thomas visits regularly, and though you are never left alone, the formality between you begins to feel less rigid, less controlled. There's a certain ease between you now, though always within the boundaries of propriety. The moments when you speak to each other feel more like genuine conversation than mere social pleasantries. It's a strange and refreshing shift, and you wonder if in time, this could blossom into something more. One evening, as you sit with your mother discussing the final details of your wedding gown, your father enters the room. There's a weight to his steps, a certain seriousness in the air. "Jane, Mr. Fairchild is requested to speak with me again tomorrow," he says, his voice firm. "He is prepared to discuss the marriage settlement." You freeze for a moment, the mention of the marriage settlement bringing the full weight of it to come crashing down. The marriage settlement is an agreement between families about the financial aspects of the union, who will own what, who controls the wealth, and the financial obligations that come with the marriage. It's a formal document, one that ensures the stability of both families. And it's expected that you will have no say in its creation. "I trust Mr. Fairchild's family is handling all of that?" You ask, trying to keep your tone neutral. Your father nods. "Yes, of course. But it's important that you understand what it entails, Jane. Marriage isn't just about emotional connections, it's a financial partnership. It's a matter of security for both families." Your heart sinks slightly. You've always known that marriage in your world is a business arrangement as much as it is a personal union. But hearing your father speak so bluntly about it brings a harsh reality to the surface. You have no say in these matters. Your only role is to comply with the expectations set before you. Your mother places a hand on your arm, sensing your unease. You will learn, Jane. This is simply the way things are done. But remember, you are not alone in this. Thomas will care for you, and his family will ensure that all is in order. You nod, though the weight of the conversation lingers with you. There is no room for personal desires in the Victorian world of marriage. It is a transaction, a contract, and you are merely a part of it. The next day, Thomas arrives at your home again. You can see the calm resolve in his posture, the businesslike manner in which he speaks to your father. The conversation is not about love or companionship. It is about numbers, about agreements, about stability. You watch as your father and Thomas go over the details of the marriage settlement, making sure everything is clear and agreed upon. Later, as Thomas takes his leave, he turns to you for just a moment. His eyes meet yours, and for a second, you see something deeper than the polite mask of a Victorian gentleman. He smiles, a soft, genuine smile that warms you in a way the formalities of the day cannot. "Miss Wilson," he says, his voice low. "He'll be by tomorrow to discuss the final arrangements. I look forward to seeing you again." You smile back, that is a hint of uncertainty in your heart. Tomorrow the wedding will become even more real. You are no longer a young lady in waiting, you are about to become someone's wife, someone's responsibility. And your future is no longer entirely your own. That evening after dinner, your mother speaks with you quietly in the drawing room. The fire crackles softly in the background, and the shadows dance along the walls as she sits across from you. "You must understand, Jane," she begins, her voice gentle but firm. "Marriage is a serious undertaking. It's about duty, about ensuring the stability of the family. But it's also about trust. You must trust Thomas, just as he has placed his trust in you. The settlement will be finalized soon, and then everything will change. Your life will become his, and his life will become his, and his life will become yours. You must learn to navigate this world with grace and dignity. It is the way of our society." You nod, though the weight of her words presses down on you. Its true marriage is not about love in the way you've imagined. It's about trust, duty, and the social expectations that will shape the rest of your life. The thought of stepping into that world, fully and without hesitation, fills you with a strange mix of fear and anticipation. The wedding day is fast approaching. The gown has been completed, the final touch is made to your trousseau, and the invitations sent out. The last of the formalities are being put in place, and there's little room left for doubt. You're about to become Mrs. Thomas Fairchild, a new identity, a new life, and a future that will be defined by the expectations of society. As you lie in bed that night, your mind racing, you can't help but wonder what the future holds. What will it be like to live as his wife, to step into the role that society has laid out for you? And what about Thomas? The proposal was made, the promises exchanged, but what of the man behind the formality? You close your eyes, your mind full of questions, and try to sleep, knowing that the next day will bring you one step closer to the life that awaits you. The days leading up to your wedding feel like a whirlwind, each one passing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Your family is busy with the final details of the ceremony, the flowers, the arrangements for the guests. But amid the flurry of activity, you begin to feel the weight of the life that is about to begin. The sense of finality that accompanies marriage in Victorian society is palpable. It's not just a change in your status, it's the beginning of a new identity, one that will be defined by duty, expectation, and the roles you and Thomas will play within society. You wake the morning before the wedding, and for the first time in what feels like weeks, there is a brief moment of calm. The house is quiet, the bustle of preparations taking a brief pause. The servants are busy with last-minute tasks. Your mother is with the dressmaker, and your father is in his study, reviewing business matters. It's a brief moment where you are left alone with your thoughts, and you can't help but reflect on everything that has led to this moment. Your reflection is interrupted when Mary enters your room with a small smile. "It's the day before, miss. Time to finish the last of the preparations." The last of the preparations. The reality hits you all at once. Tomorrow you will be married. Tomorrow you will step into a new role, a new life. A future with Thomas where your days will be filled with the duties and responsibilities of being a wife, a member of the Fairchild family. You dress in your finest morning gown, a soft cream silk that complements your complexion, and prepare yourself for the day. As you look into the mirror, you see the woman who is about to embark on the most important journey of her life. And yet, in the reflection, you don't quite recognize yourself. Your life has been planned for you in ways that go beyond anything you could have imagined. You've played your part, and now it's time to step onto the stage as Mrs. Thomas Fairchild. Your mother calls you downstairs. As you enter the drawing room, you can't help but feel the weight of her gaze, the quiet pride in her eyes. "Are you ready, Jane?" she asks softly. "Ready, mother," you reply, though inside, your heart flutters. There's no turning back now. Your father joins you both in the room, and with him is the family solicitor who will finalize the last details of the marriage settlement. The paperwork, as expected, is full of formalities, clauses that determine the distribution of property, financial security, and the responsibilities that come with being married. You listen carefully, but you know it's all been decided for you long before you were ever asked to consider it. This is how things are done. This is how your life has been shaped. Your father looks over the documents with a steady hand, nodding in approval. "All in order then?" "Yes, sir," the solicitor replies. "Everything has been arranged according to the agreement. The formality of it all is suffocating. Your future is now set, and while you know there's a certain security in that, it still feels as though something has been lost in the process. This marriage isn't just about love, it's about duty, about ensuring the continuation of the family name, about fulfilling the roles assigned to you." Later in the day, Thomas arrives, just as you are finishing the final touches on your gown. Your heart leaps in your chest when you see him, though you do your best to remain composed. His presence has always been comforting, yet today, it feels like the last step before the unknown. "Miss Wilson," he says with a bow, his voice soft yet filled with an unmistakable sincerity. "It's almost time." You nod, your voice steady. "Yes, Thomas. Tomorrow will be here before we know it." His gaze softens as he steps closer, his eyes meeting yours. There's something different in his expression now, something warmer, more genuine, as though the formalities of the courtship have finally given way to something deeper. "I look forward to our life together," he says quietly. "I hope we can make this work, Jade." You smile, though there's a flicker of uncertainty in your chest. "As do I, Thomas." The moments between you both feel charged, and for the first time, you wonder if this marriage might hold something more than just the duties that have been assigned to it. But those thoughts are fleeting. You know the rules. You know the expectations. And in a way, you've already accepted them. The next day arrives with the first rays of sunlight piercing through the fog. The wedding ceremony is set to take place in the late morning, and everything is falling into place. The house is filled with the soft hum of preparation servants bustling about, arranging the final touches, the guests arriving in their finest attire. Your gown is finally in place, the delicate white silk flowing around you like a dream. It is the gown that will mark the end of your life as Jane Wilson, and the beginning of your life as Mrs. Thomas Fairchild. You stand in front of the mirror, staring at your reflection. You are beautiful, composed, ready to take on the new life that awaits you. Yet, there's a part of you that wonders what it will be like. What will life be like with Thomas? What will your days look like once you are no longer just a daughter, but a wife? The thoughts swirl in your mind, but you push them aside. Today is not the day for doubt. Today is for embracing what comes next. At the church, the ceremony unfolds with all the grandeur that a Victorian wedding demands. The guests are seated, the atmosphere charged with anticipation, and the organ music fills the air, echoing through the stone walls. The vicar stands at the altar, and soon, it is your turn to take your place beside Thomas. As you walk down the aisle, your father by your side, you feel the weight of every step, every gaze that follows you. You are no longer just a young woman in society. You are now stepping into your role as a wife, as part of the Fairchild family. Thomas stands at the altar, waiting for you. His expression is calm, composed, but there is something in his eyes, something warm and genuine that tells you this moment is not just a formality for him. He is here with you, and in this moment, it feels as though everything else fades away. The ceremony proceeds smoothly, the vows exchanged with the quiet dignity that defines Victorian weddings. When the vicar pronounces you husband and wife, you feel a rush of relief mixed with uncertainty. You are officially Mrs. Thomas Fairchild now, and though you followed the rules, you wonder what the future holds. As the vicar pronounces you and Thomas husband and wife, the weight of the moment hits you all at once. For a brief second you almost forget to breathe, as the enormity of what you've just entered into becomes painfully clear. You are no longer just Jane Wilson the daughter, the young lady awaiting her turn in society. You are now Mrs. Thomas Fairchild, bound to him by the laws of society, the expectations of your families, and the duties that come with this new title. You feel Thomas' hands slip into yours as the vicar speaks the final words. He leans in slightly, offering you a quiet smile that, for the first time, seems entirely real. "We did it," he murmurs, just loud enough for you to hear. It's a simple statement, but in that moment you realize that, yes, you've done it. You've crossed a line that can never be uncrossed, entered a new chapter in your life that will be defined by new rules, new responsibilities, and a new identity. As the ceremony concludes, the guests file out of the church, and the heavy silence that follows feels like a suffocating presence. The world outside the church is bustling with the usual noise of London, but for you, everything feels different. You are now married, a wife. You will no longer be judged by the same standards as you once were. You are no longer your own person. You belong to Thomas. The ride back to the Fairchild family estate feels like a dream, though the reality of the day is sinking in with every passing moment. Is it beside Thomas, your hands clasped together, a proper distance maintained between you? The carriage sways slightly as it moves through the streets, but inside the air feels thick, heavy with expectation. Thomas steals a glance at you as the carriage rolls on, and though he says nothing, his eyes are full of unspoken words. You've barely spoken a word to each other since the ceremony, and the silence weighs heavily on you. What does it all mean now? You've fulfilled your duties, but what about the life you will now build together? Can love grow in this carefully constructed world, or is that something only left for novels, not the reality of your marriage? The carriage pulls up to the Fairchild estate, the house looming before you like an unfamiliar castle. It's grand, much grander than your own family's home, and you can already feel the enormity of the expectations that await you within its walls. As you step out of the carriage, your new life begins to feel even more real. The butler greets you, his face as impassive as ever, but you notice the slight bow of his head as he acknowledges you. Mrs. Fairchild, standing nearby, is smiling, though the smile is more like a polite mask than genuine warmth. "Welcome home, Mrs. Fairchild," she says, her voice formal, but the hint of approval is there. You can sense that, despite the layers of social propriety, she's pleased with the union. She has a vested interest in the success of this marriage, just as your mother does. It's not just about love or affection, it's about what's best for the family, for the name, and for the social status. The evening passes in a haze of formality. Dinner is served in the grand dining room, and as you take your seat beside Thomas, you notice the sharp contrast between the warmth of your family home and the cold grandeur of the Fairchild estate. The conversations are polite and measured, and everything feels like it's being watched. Every glance, every gesture is under scrutiny, and you begin to understand that this is the world you have now entered. After dinner, you retire to your new quarters, yours and Thomas' room. The room is as grand as the rest of the house, adorned with rich tapestries, dark wood furniture, and soft candlelight. But as you look around, you realize that it feels cold, unfamiliar. This is not the room you've known all your life. This is the room where you will now share your nights with your husband. But it is still a room of expectation. There is no room for spontaneity, no space for true intimacy, at least not in the way you had imagined it. Thomas enters shortly after, closing the door behind him. The weight of the day seems to fall upon him as well, and for the first time since the ceremony. He seems unsure. He stands by the door for a moment, glancing at you, his face softened by the quiet. "I know this is all overwhelming," he says quietly, "but we will find our way, Jane. Together." The simplicity of his words, the calm sincerity in his voice, is a small comfort. But even now, as you stand on the threshold of your new life, you wonder what together truly means in this carefully constructed world. You are his wife, now bound to him by society's rules, by your family's expectations. But what does it mean to be his in this moment? You walk over to the window, looking out at the dark, misty night that has settled over London. The gas lamps cast a soft glow in the distance, and for a brief moment, you feel a pang of homesickness. The city feels so far away, as though you've been swept into a different world altogether. Thomas approaches you slowly, his presence calm. There is an unmistakable tension between you. He places his hand gently on your shoulder, his touch warm but measured. You're thinking of home, he observes softly. You nod, but you don't look back at him. It's all so new, you say quietly. It's hard to adjust to the changes. I understand, Thomas replies. But remember, Jane, this is our home now. This is where we begin. His words hang in the air between you both. You want to believe him, to feel the security he offers. But there's a part of you that wonders if the life you're about to build together will ever feel like your own. You've followed the rules, you've done what's expected of you. But will there ever be room for true freedom? As the night deepens and the sounds of the house quiet, you find yourself lying in bed beside Thomas, the weight of the day still pressing heavily on you. The space between you both feels vast, even though he is right beside you. You close your eyes, wondering what the future holds in this world of expectations and rules. Will love find its way into this marriage? Or is it destined to be defined by the constraints of society? Tomorrow your life will continue. The rules will still govern every step, but for now, you close your eyes and drift into sleep, unsure of what comes next, but certain that the life you once knew has forever changed. The days following your wedding blur together, filled with the quiet hum of everyday life in the Fairchild household. You've stepped into your new role with as much grace as you can muster. Though everything feels foreign to you, the grandeur of the estate, the formalities of your new life, the expectations that weigh on your every action, they are also different from the simplicity of your life before marriage. You wake each morning with a sense of duty. You've been taught how to manage a household, how to attend to the needs of the family, but it's different now. You are no longer simply Jane Wilson, daughter of your parents. You are Mrs. Thomas Fairchild, the new mistress of this house. And that title comes with responsibilities you are only beginning to understand. Thomas, for his part, is much the same as he has always been: polite, distant, controlled. There are moments when you think you catch a glimpse of something more, a fleeting softness in his eyes, but just as quickly, it's gone. His manner is always reserved, and though you share a room now, is a wall between you, built of the expectations that have governed your lives since birth. Every conversation, every glance feels measured. But even in this carefully controlled world, there are moments of connection. One afternoon, after a light lunch, you are sitting together in the drawing room, your needlework in your lap, when Thomas breaks the silence that is stretched between you. Jane, he begins, his voice quieter than usual. How are you adjusting to everything? The estate, the responsibilities. I know it's a lot to take in. The fact that he asks, the fact that he seems to genuinely care, catches you off guard. You glance up at him, meeting his eyes for the first time in days. For a brief moment, you wonder if there is something beyond the surface of his carefully composed demeanor. In managing, you reply, though it feels like an understatement. It's just, everything is so different. I'm still trying to find my place here. Thomas nods, his gaze softening. I understand. It's a lot to adjust to. But you'll find your way, Jane. We'll figure it out together. You look at him, the words sinking in. For the first time since your wedding, it feels like HES offering more than just formal pleasantries. There's a sincerity in his tone, a warmth that makes you wonder if he too is struggling with the weight of this new life. Perhaps this marriage is not just a duty for him, but something he is trying to navigate. Just as you are. You don't have to do this alone, he adds quietly. We're in this together, remember. The reassurance in his voice is comforting, but the underlying tension remains. Even as he speaks, you know that this is a marriage built on duty, not passion. The rules of Victorian society still govern every action, every word. Yet, despite the weight of those rules, there's something in his voice, in the way he looks at you, that hints at a possibility, perhaps something more than mere dainty. Later that afternoon, as you walk through the garden of the estate, you try to push the thoughts of Thomas aside. The weight of your responsibilities presses in on you. You have to learn how to manage the household, how to interact with the staff, how to be the perfect wife. These are the things that matter. But when you catch a glimpse of Thomas in the garden, standing by the hedge, his figure slightly hunched as he watches something with an intense focus, you feel the pull to him again. There's a part of you that wonders if this marriage will always be defined by these rules, or if one day, there might be space for something more. He turns as you approach, his face breaking into a smile, still polite. But there's something genuine in it this time. Jane, he says, his voice warm. I didn't expect to see you here. You smile back, walking toward him. I needed some fresh air. I thought it would be nice to take a walk. Would you like some company? He asks, his tone soft. For a moment, you see the man behind the facade, the man who is trying to connect with you, despite the constraints of your roles. It like that, you reply. And for the first time in what feels like days, you feel a sense of ease between you. The two of you walk slowly through the garden, the conversation flowing easily as you discuss the flowers, the weather, and the estate. There are no grand declarations, no passionate speeches, but there's a comfort in the quiet moments you share. The silence between you isn't filled with expectations, and for that brief time it feels like there's space for something genuine. Later that evening, when you retire to your room, you reflect on the day. The house is still grand, still imposing, but there are moments when you feel as though you're restarting to find your place. Maybe it won't be an easy journey, and maybe you'll never be free of the constraints that define this life, but you can see a way forward. You may be bound by the rules of society, but that doesn't mean you can't find some space for yourself within them. And maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that, in time, you and Thomas will learn how to make this marriage something more than just a transaction. The days pass, and you find yourself settling into the routine of life at the Fairchild estate. The early days of your marriage, though filled with formality, have given way to a quieter, more settled existence. Your mornings are spent overseeing the household staff, ensuring that the day's duties are carried out properly. You've learned to navigate the expectations of your role, how to host guests, how to arrange the household budget, how to ensure that everything runs smoothly. There is, you realize, a certain satisfaction in the precision of it all. The rules may be suffocating, but they offer a sense of order, a clear structure within which you can exist. But even as you fall into this new rhythm, there is a sense of something missing. You've fulfilled your duties, and you are the perfect wife by all outward appearances. But beneath the surface, you still wonder if there will ever be room for something more between you and Thomas, something deeper, something real. You spent time with him, of course, and those small moments in the garden, when you walked and spoke of nothing in particular, have remained in your mind. But even those brief conversations are laced with the same formality that has defined your marriage. There's never a moment of true intimacy, no crossing of boundaries beyond the rules of decorum. One evening after dinner, Thomas seems quieter than usual. You notice it when you enter the drawing room, where he is seated by the fireplace, his eyes distant, his expression unreadable. For a moment you wonder if something is troubling him, but you hesitate. The rules of Victorian society dictate that you should never pry, but you should never ask about anything too personal unless invited to do so. And even then, you must proceed with caution. You stand in the doorway, unsure whether to speak or retreat to your needlework. The silence between you both feels heavy, and you wonder if it will always be like this to people bound together by duty, unable to break through the walls that society has built around them. Thomas looks up and meets your gaze, his expression softening slightly. "Jane," he says quietly, his voice carrying an unfamiliar note. "I've been thinking." You take a tentative step toward him, unsure of what he might say next. "What have you been thinking, Thomas?" you ask, your voice steady, but tinged with curiosity. He gestures to the empty chair beside him, an invitation to sit. You take a seat, your hands folded neatly in your lap, waiting for him to continue. "I know we've been married for a while now," he begins, his tone measured but earnest. "And I've done my best to respect the boundaries that society has placed on us. But I can't help but wonder, do you ever feel that there's more to life than just the roles we've been given?" His question catches you off guard. You've never heard him speak so openly, so directly. There's a vulnerability in his voice that you haven't noticed before, and it stirs something inside you. Could it be that he too feels the weight of the role society has assigned to you both? Could it be that he too yearns for something more? "I do," you admit softly. "I do feel that sometimes. But we can't break free from those roles, Thomas. You know that. We must do what is expected of us." He leans forward slightly, his gaze intense as he looks at you. "But must we always be bound by those expectations? Must we always hide behind the roles of wife and husband, of dutiful daughter and son? Is there no room for something more? For something real?" The rawness in his words hits you like a wave. In this moment, you realize that he has been struggling with the same questions that have plagued you. There is perhaps a chance for something more between you. Something beyond the rules, beyond the expectations. You meet his gaze, your heart racing in your chest. "I don't know, Thomas," you say quietly. I have been taught to follow the rules, to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect lady. But there's a part of me that wonders what it would be like to break free of all that, to simply be ourselves. A long silence falls between you, and for the first time since your marriage, you feel as though you are truly seeing Thomas not just as your husband, but as a man, someone who, like you, is caught between the expectations of society and his own desires. After a long pause, he speaks again, his voice softer this time. Perhaps we can find a way to be ourselves, Jane. Even within these walls, even within these rules. It may not be easy, but I want to try. You feel a surge of emotion, and for the first time, you realize that you may not have to sacrifice everything for the sake of propriety. There may be space within this marriage for more than just duty. There may be room for a genuine connection. I want that too, you reply, your voice steady, but filled with the hope that has been buried beneath the layers of societal expectations. I want to try, Thomas. And with that simple agreement, the silence between you both shifts. The walls that have separated you begin to feel a little less imposing, a little less suffocating. It's not much yet, but it's a start. As the evening wears on, the two of you sit together in silence, but now the silence feels different. It's no longer heavy with the weight of unspoken words. It's filled with the quiet promise of what might come next, the possibility of a future that isn't entirely defined by the rules you both lived by. When you retire to your room later that night, your mind is racing with the thought of what might come next. The life you once thought would be confined to a world of duty and expectation suddenly seems a little more open. There may be space for something more between you and Thomas. Perhaps with time, you will find a way to make this marriage your own. But for now, the simple fact that he is willing to try to look beyond the roles that have defined both of you is enough. And as you settle into bed, you feel a sense of peace that you haven't felt in a long time. Tomorrow you'll face the world again, but today, as a glimmer of hope. I hope that perhaps, the future doesn't have to be as constrained as the past. The days after your quiet conversation with Thomas pass by with a new sense of anticipation. The weight of duty is still present, but there's something else now, an unspoken promise. That you and Thomas might find a way to navigate your marriage on your own terms. The idea of breaking free from the constraints of social expectations feels both thrilling and terrifying. Thomas has continued to be more present in your conversations, less formal, more genuine. The walls that once seemed insurmountable between you are slowly beginning to crumble, piece by piece. There are still moments when the old habits creep in, moments where duty and decorum dictate your actions, where the weight of society's expectations presses down on you both. But there are also moments when you look at each other, and you see more than just the roles you are playing. You see the possibility of something more. One evening as the sun sets over the garden, Thomas asks you to join him for a walk. It's an invitation. You've become accustomed to these small, quiet moments when the two of you slip away from the public gaze and simply exist as a couple. The garden, with its towering trees and neatly trimmed hedges, offers a private sanctuary, a place where you can be yourselves, even if only for a short while. I've been thinking, Thomas begins as you walk side by side, the cool evening air wrapping around you. We've spent so much time navigating the rules of society. But what about us? What about what we want? The question lingers in the air between you, a reminder that your lives are still governed by the strictures of Victorian society, but also an invitation to step beyond them, if only for a moment. What do you mean? You ask, your voice steady but filled with curiosity. I mean, Jane, he says, glancing at you with a softness in his eyes that you haven't seen before. There's so much more to life than what we've been taught. We don't have to be slaves to the rules. We can make our own choices, our own way forward. I don't want us to live our lives as just a performance. His words, though quiet, resonate deeply within you. For the first time since your marriage, you realize that Thomas isn't just offering you a life of duty and obligation. He's offering you something more: freedom, choice, and a chance to build something together that's not defined by the expectations of others. I felt it too, you admit, your voice barely a whisper. All these rules, all this propriety, it's suffocating at times. But I don't know how we can break free from it. We're bound by so much, Thomas. By our families, by society, by everything. I know, he says, his voice soft but firm. But we don't have to accept it blindly. We can carve out our own space, even within this world. It won't be easy, but I believe we can do it." His words are a balm to your soul, a reminder that you don't have to accept the life that's been mapped out for you. There's room for you to shape your own future, to live a life that feels true to who you are, not just to the roles society expects you to play. You pause for a moment, turning to face him. "How do we begin?" you ask, your heart racing with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. "We begin by acknowledging that we're more than just the sum of our parts. More than just husband and wife. More than just roles to be played. We begin by choosing each other every day, on our own terms, together." The simplicity of his answer is overwhelming in its honesty. You realize in that moment that you don't need grand gestures or sweeping declarations to make this marriage your own. What you need is what Thomas is offering: a partnership. An understanding that, despite the rules, you can still find space for each other, for your own desires, your own ambitions. The walk continues in comfortable silence, the garden now seeming less like a place of restraint and more like a place of possibility. As you walk side by side, you feel the subtle shift in your relationship. The barriers between you have begun to fade, and what's left is something raw and real to people learning how to navigate a world that has set boundaries for them, but that they are learning to redefine. That evening, as you sit together in the drawing room, the fire crackling softly, you realize that things have changed. It's not a dramatic shift, but a subtle one, something beneath the surface. You and Thomas are beginning to carve out a space for yourselves. A space where you can exist as more than just the expectations placed on you. In the days that follow, you continue to find small ways to break free from the constraints that have shaped your life. You speak more openly with Thomas, your conversations growing deeper and more personal. You find comfort in these moments, in the quiet understanding between you. And though you know that the world around you will never fully allow you to escape the roles that have been set for you, you also know that together you and Thomas can create something that's uniquely yours. A marriage not defined by duty alone, but by choice, by mutual respect, and perhaps even by love. As time passes, you find yourself less and less focused on the expectations of others. You've learned that it's possible to carve out a small corner of your own world, where you can simply be. With Thomas, you don't have to perform. You can simply exist together in this strange new world that you've built for yourselves. The future is still uncertain. The road ahead is filled with challenges, with the weight of societal expectations bearing down on you both. But in this moment, you feel a sense of peace. You are not just following the rules anymore. You're living your life on your terms, and that's something you never thought possible. As the weeks go by, the shift in your marriage becomes more noticeable. What once felt like a life constrained by duty and expectation now begins to feel more like a partnership. But the world around you remains firmly rooted in tradition and propriety. You and Thomas are slowly carving out a space where you can be yourselves. Your days have settled into a familiar rhythm, mornings spent overseeing the estate, managing the staff, and dealing with the responsibilities of running the household. But there's a quiet ease in these tasks now. You've learned to navigate them with confidence, and Thomas has become more of a presence in your decisions, offering his thoughts and opinions without the stiffness that once defined you. It's a small change, but it's enough to make you feel more connected to him. One evening, as you sit together after dinner, the fire crackling softly in the hearth, Thomas speaks up again, his voice thoughtful. "Jane," he begins, his gaze meeting yours. "I've been thinking about how we've been living, about how much we've allowed the rules to define us." You turn to him, your curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he says, his expression serious yet open, "that we've both been living by the expectations set for us, and then starting to wonder if there's more we can do, not just for ourselves, but for those around us." The weight of his words hangs in the air, and for a moment, you feel the gravity of what he is suggesting. The rules you followed for so long, the expectations you've both adhered to, they defined your world. But now, Thomas is suggesting something different, something more. "What do you propose?" you ask quietly, unsure of where this conversation might lead. He leans forward, his eyes intense but filled with a quiet conviction. "I've been thinking about the way our families and society expect us to behave, how much they depend on our obedience to these rules. But what if, instead of simply following those expectations, we start to challenge them? What if we use our position to help others, to give back, to create something more than just the legacy of wealth and status?" The idea takes root in your mind, and for the first time, you can see what he is suggesting. It's not about breaking all the rules, at least. Not in a dramatic way, but about finding a purpose beyond the rigid structure of your world. It's about using your influence, your position, for something more meaningful. I think I understand, you say slowly. You mean using our status to make a difference, to do something beyond the walls of our estate? Thomas nods, a slight smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Exactly. We have a responsibility to do more than just follow the rules. We have the means to effect change, to support those who need it most. It's time we take that responsibilities seriously. For the first time, you feel a stirring of excitement. This is something new, something that could truly transform not just your marriage but your life. The thought of helping others, of using your position to make a tangible difference, fills you with a sense of purpose you never thought possible. I agree, you reply, your voice steady but filled with newfound determination. But where do we begin? Thomas smiles fully now, his eyes lighting up with a warmth you haven't seen before. I've been thinking about that too. There are countless ways we could help, whether it's through charitable donations, supporting local causes, or even working directly with those in need. We could start by volunteering our time, our resources. We could set an example for others, show them that we don't have to be confined by the expectations of society. We can create our own legacy. The idea of creating your own legacy, of doing something that matters, fills you with a sense of excitement and purpose. You feel a deep connection to Thomas now, not just as your husband, but as a partner who is willing to challenge the world around you to make it a better place. This is the kind of life you've always dreamed of, a life of meaning, of impact. Over the next few weeks, you begin to explore ways to make your vision a reality. You meet with local charities, attend meetings with organizations that support the poor and vulnerable, and start to plan how you can use your resources to make a lasting impact. But even as you embark on this new path, you continue to navigate the complexities of your marriage and your role in society. The expectations don't vanish overnight, and there are still moments when the weight of your position feels suffocating. Yet now, you have a shared goal, a purpose that transcends the rules of propriety. And with Thomas by your side, the future feels brighter, full of possibilities. One afternoon, as you walk through the estate, you catch a glimpse of Thomas standing by the garden, watching the workers carefully trim the hedges. There's a calmness about him now, a quiet confidence that wasn't there before. You walk over to him, and when he turns to face you, you see the same warmth in his eyes that you've come to cherish. Do you ever think about what's next? You ask, your voice soft. Thomas looks out across the garden, his gaze distant but thoughtful. All the time, the work we're doing, it's just the beginning. We've only scratched the surface of what we can accomplish. But I believe with time, we'll make a real difference. You nod, your heart swelling with pride. I believe that too. As you stand together in the garden, the world around you seems a little less heavy. The rules are still there, the expectations still pressing down on you both. But now you have something more, something that gives you both a sense of direction. Together, you're rebuilding something meaningful. And in that moment, you realize that this marriage, once defined by duty, is now becoming something more. It's becoming a partnership, a shared vision, and a chance to leave behind a legacy that truly matters. And though the world will continue to judge you by its rules, you know that, within the walls of this estate, you and Thomas have created something uniquely your own. As the weeks unfold, the changes in your life feel both subtle and profound. Your efforts to give back, to make a real difference, begin to take shape in small, meaningful ways. You and Thomas have started to dedicate more of your time to the causes you become passionate about. You attend charity dailies, meet with local leaders to discuss how to better serve the less fortunate, and even organize small community events. These activities are not just about fulfilling a duty, they are about finding purpose in a world that, until now, had felt rigid and predictable. But even as you make strides in this new direction, the weight of Victorian expectations continues to hover over you. The world outside still expects you to conform to its rigid standards of behavior, polite, composed, ever minus dutiful. Every action, every word is measured against the invisible rules of society. And as much as you and Thomas are carving out a new path for yourselves, those rules are still there, shaping your every move. One afternoon, as you and Thomas sit in the study discussing your latest charitable initiative, there is a knock on the door. The servant enters, announcing that an important guest has arrived, Lady Amelia Darrow, a woman of considerable influence in London society. Lady Darrow is here, sir, the servant says, bowing slightly. Chess asks to speak with Mrs. Fairchild. You exchange a glance with Thomas. Lady Darrow? You ask, your curiosity piqued. Yes, Thomas replies, his tone neutral but slightly wary. She's a fixture in the highest circles of London society. If she's come to speak with you, Jane, it may be a sign that our efforts are beginning to get attention. But you must be careful with her. She's known for her influence and her sharp tongue. Lady Darrow is a woman whose opinion carries weight in the highest circles of London. Her approval or disapproval can make or break the reputation of those in her orbit. You know her name from social events and whispers at gatherings. But you've never had direct dealings with her. Her reputation as a formidable woman precedes her, and you're uncertain whether this visit is an opportunity or a test. With a slight nod, you rise from your seat. You'll speak with her. Thank you, Thomas. You follow the servant down the long hallway of the estate and into the drawing room, where Lady Darrow stands by the window, gazing out at the garden. Her posture is perfect, her demeanor one of quiet authority. She is dressed in a gown of deep crimson, the fabric flowing elegantly around her, a striking contrast to the pale walls of the room. As she turns to face you, her sharp gaze meets yours with an appraising look. Mrs. Fairchild, Lady Darrow says, her voice smooth and controlled. What a pleasure it is to finally meet you. You offer a polite curtsy, trying to match her composed demeanor. The pleasure is mine, Lady Darrow. She takes a step towards you, her heels clicking softly on the floor. I've heard much about you, Mrs. Fairchild, about your recent endeavors, your charity work. Her lips curve into a small, almost imperceptible smile. I must say, I am impressed. It's rare to see someone with such, how shall I say it, ambition in your position. Many women in your station would simply have focused on the social aspects of their marriage. But you seem to be doing something more. You nod, unsure of how to respond. Lady Darrow's words are veiled in praise. But there's an edge to her own that suggests she's not entirely convinced by your actions. We are trying to make a difference, Lady Darrow. To use our position for something more than just social standing. Her smile widens slightly, though it's not entirely kind. Yes, I can see that. But let me be clear, Mrs. Fairchild, doing good works, giving to charity, these are all very well. But they must be done with discretion. Public attention can be both a blessing and a curse. You must remember that while your intentions may be pure, there are those who will always scrutinize your every move. Her words cut deeper than you expected, and you feel the weight of her judgment settle on your shoulders. She's right, of course. Your efforts to do good may be seen as nothing more than a calculated attempt to gain favor in the eyes of society. There will always be those who question your motives, who assume that charity is just another means of securing your position. I understand, Lady Darrow, you reply, keeping your voice steady. I will keep that in mind. Lady Darrow studies you for a moment longer, as if sizing you up. Then, with a nod, she speaks again, her tone shifting slightly. I must admit, I'm curious about something else, Mrs. Fairchild. Your marriage to Thomas, it's been the subject of much discussion. You're both quite the mystery. How is it truly? The reality of married life, I mean. The question takes you by surprise, and for a brief moment, you wonder if she's probing for something personal, something she can use against you. You hesitate before answering, choosing your words carefully. Marriage is as it should be, you reply, your voice calm but guarded. We have built a partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals. Lady Darrow's eyes glint with something like amusement. How very politically correct of you. But I suspect there's more to it than that. After all, I've seen Thomas at many of the gatherings we've both attended. He's a man of certain qualities, shall we say. How do you, as his wife, fit into the picture? Her questions feel invasive. But you can tell she's fishing for something, some vulnerability she can exploit. You keep your composure, not allowing her to see how deeply her words affect you. We are building our life together, Lady Darrow. As partners, as equals. Lady Darrow tilts her head slightly, studying you with a knowing gaze. I see. Well, Mrs. Fairchild, I won't take up any more of your time. I have made my observations. I trust you'll take them to heart. She turns to leave, but before she does, she pauses and glances back at you. You know, Jane, it's rare to see someone as ambitious as you. You have a great deal of potential, but don't forget who you are. Don't forget your place. There are those who will expect you to remain in the shadows, supporting your husband, never stepping out too far in front. With that final, cryptic remark, Lady Darrow sweeps from the room, leaving you alone with your thoughts. Her visit, though brief, has left you shaken. As you return to the study to find Thomas, you feel the weight of her words hanging over you. She's right about one thing in this world. There will always be those who will scrutinize your every move. Always those who will question your motives. But you and Thomas have already chosen a different path. One that isn't about playing the game according to their rules. When you find Thomas, he looks up from his papers, concern flickering in his eyes. What did she want? You take a deep breath, steadying yourself before speaking. She came to offer her advice, you say, choosing your words carefully. She's concerned about our public image, about how we're perceived. Thomas frowns slightly. She's always been a harsh critic. But don't let her words affect you, Jane. We're doing what we believe is right. That's all that matters. You nod, grateful for his support, but the unease remains. Lady Darrow's visit was a reminder of the world you and Thomas are still navigating, a world that will always try to hold you back, to keep you in your place. But in that moment, standing by his side, you feel a renewed sense of purpose. You and Thomas may never escape the scrutiny of society, but together, you can continue to carve out your own path. And that, you realize, is all that truly matters. As time passes, you and Thomas gradually realize that, despite your efforts to break free from the constraints of Victorian society, you can never fully escape the scrutiny and judgment of the world around you. Although Thomas continues to offer his support and encouragement, you still feel the weight of society's expectations pressing down on you. One afternoon, after a quiet dinner, you receive an unexpected visit from Lady Amelia Darrow, a woman of considerable influence in London society. Lady Darrow is here, madame. A servant announces, bowing slightly. She requests to speak with you. You exchange a brief look with Thomas, curiosity piqued. Lady Darrow? You ask, feeling a sense of both anticipation and unease. Yes, Thomas replies, his expression neutral, though there is a hint of caution in his voice. She's a fixture in the highest circles of London society. Her approval or disapproval can make or break the reputation of anyone. And if she's come to see you, Jane, it's likely because she's noticed our efforts. But be wary, she's a woman of sharp wit and sharper judgment. You nod, steeling yourself for whatever may come. You may not be fully comfortable with the expectations of the upper class, but you have always tried to remain composed. You take a deep breath and walk to the drawing room to meet Lady Darrow. The echo of her name heavy in your thoughts. She stands by the window, the light of the setting sun casting a soft glow over her red gown. As she turns to face you, her eyes appraise you coldly, though her smile remains polite. Mrs. Fairchild, she says in a voice as smooth as silk, what a pleasure it is to finally meet you. You curtsy gracefully, keeping your composure. The pleasure is mine, Lady Darrow. She steps closer, her heels clicking against the floor with every step, her gaze still piercing. I've heard much about you, Mrs. Fairchild, she continues, her tone almost too sweet. Your charity work, your recent initiatives. I must say, I am impressed. It's rare in your position to see someone with such, how shall I put it, ambition. Most women in your station would concern themselves only with their social standing and the duties of marriage. But you seem to be trying for something more. You feel the weight of her words. Her praise is thinly veiled, and there is an edge beneath it that you can't quite decipher. We are trying to make a meaningful difference, Lady Darrow, you reply carefully. To use our position for something greater than mere social appearances. She smiles faintly, though it seems more like a mask than genuine warmth. Yes, of course. But let me give you some advice, Mrs. Fairchild, she says, her voice now turning almost admonitory. Doing good works, offering charity, these are all very well, but they must be done with discretion. Public attention is both a gift and a curse. I advise you to be cautious. There will always be those who will question your motives. Her words sting, and you can feel her calculating gaze on you, sizing you up, testing you. Despite her polished words, you sense the underlying judgment. You can't help but feel that this is a challenge, a test of your integrity, your motivations, your place in society. I understand, Lady Darrow, you respond, maintaining your composure. We are aware of the attention, and well, proceed carefully. Lady Darrow looks you over once more, then nods as if satisfied. I'm sure you'll take that to heart, Mrs. Fairchild, one must always remember their place in society. With that, she turns and walks toward the door, her footsteps echoing in the silent room. Before she leaves, she pauses, her hand on the doorknob, and adds with a sly smile, "You're a woman of potential, Mrs. Fairchild. Don't let your ambitions get the better of you. Some things are best left in the shadows." With that, she exits, leaving you standing in the drawing room, the weight of her words sinking deep within you. The room feels colder now, the warmth from the fire in the hearth failing to reach you. You take a moment to compose yourself before returning to Thomas, who is waiting in the study. When you find him, he looks up from his papers, his expression expectant but cautious. "What did she want?" he asks. You take a deep breath and sit down beside him, your mind still processing Lady D'Arrow's visit. "She came to offer her advice," you say carefully, not wanting to let the full impact of the conversation show. "She's concerned about our public image, about how we're perceived." Thomas frowns slightly, but his voice remains steady. Lady D'Arrow is known for her sharp tongue, but she's also known for her influence. Her opinion carries weight, but that doesn't mean we have to accept it. "I know," you reply, meeting his gaze. "But what she said, she is right. There will always be those who question our motives, no matter what we do. We can never be beyond reproach." Thomas places a reassuring hand on yours. "We know why we're doing this, Jane. And that's all that matters. Let Lady D'Arrow think what she will. We are doing what is right." His words are a balm, but the unease Lady D'Arrow instilled in you lingers. You know that the path you and Thomas are walking is fraught with scrutiny, but there's something in his words that comforts you, something in the quiet strength of his conviction that reassures you that, despite the judgment of others, you're on the right path. As the evening draws to a close, you both retire to your rooms, the weight of the day still heavy on your shoulders. But in your heart, you know one thing for sure: no matter the expectations of society, no matter how often you are tested by those who doubt your intentions, you and Thomas have made a commitment to something greater. And that, you realize, is the most important thing of all. The days following Lady D'Arrow's visit are filled with a quiet tension. Though Thomas reassures you that her words should not trouble you, the weight of her judgment lingers in your mind. The idea that your every move, every decision, is being watched and scrutinized by those in power is suffocating. And yet, you and Thomas are determined to remain steadfast in your mission, using your position to effect real change, to give back to the community, and to challenge the expectations placed upon you. But as you continue with your charitable work and public efforts, the reality of society's expectations becomes clearer. There are whispers, polite but pointed, at every event. Your initiatives, though well-minus meaning, are often dismissed as calculated attempts to gain favor. Lady D'Arrow's words echo in your mind. Public attention is both a gift and a curse. You can feel the weight of that truth every time you step into a room, every time you speak in public. Despite these challenges, Thomas' presence is a source of comfort. His support and belief in your shared vision remain unwavering, and together, you continue to push forward. Still, there are moments when you feel the isolation of your position, the feeling that, no matter how much you give, you will never be seen as anything more than a woman playing the game of society's rules. One afternoon, as you sit by the window in the drawing room, looking out at the distant city skyline, you hear the familiar sound of footsteps approaching. It's Thomas returning from his business meetings. His face is drawn, his expression more serious than usual. You rise from your seat to greet him. "Is everything well?" you ask, concern creeping into your voice. He looks at you, his gaze tired but thoughtful. "It's complicated," he says, his words slow and deliberate. "There are forces at play, Jane. Powerful people who don't take kindly to those who try to shift the balance. Some of our efforts have not gone unnoticed. And there are whispers. Whispers that our intentions are less noble than we've let on." Your stomach tightens at his words. You've always known that what you were doing would attract attention, both positive and negative. But hearing it from Thomas makes it feel more real, more dangerous. "What kind of whispers?" you ask, your voice tight with worry. "Nothing we can't handle," he replies, though the tension in his voice betrays his calm words. "But I think it's time we consider our next steps carefully. There are those who would see us fail, Jane. People who would use their influence to undermine us." You feel the weight of his words pressing down on you. You fought so hard to carve out your place in this world, to make a difference. And now it feels as though the very thing you're trying to build is under threat. The idea of facing these powerful forces without losing your sense of self or the cause you've taken up is daunting. What do we do, you ask? The question a whisper in the stillness of the room. Thomas hesitates, his gaze meeting yours. We keep going, he says firmly. We don't let them win. Our work is too important, and it's far from over. If they want to play dirty, well, play smarter. His words are filled with determination, but underneath, you sense a growing frustration, one that matches your own. The world you've tried so hard to navigate, the world you've tried to reshape, is pushing back. The game is never simple, never fair. Yet, in this moment with Thomas by your side, you feel a flicker of hope. You can't let this world dictate the course of your future. You stand up, moving toward him. He'll stand by you, Thomas. We've come this far, and we won't let anyone turn us away from what we believe in. He looks at you, his face softening for the briefest moment. Together, Jane. Well, face whatever comes together. The next few days are filled with strategic planning, meetings with your allies, and careful consideration of how best to proceed. You continue your charity work, but now there's an added layer of caution in your steps. You know that the attention you're drawing is both a blessing and a curse, and yet you refuse to be silenced. The road ahead is uncertain, but you and Thomas are determined to face whatever comes with courage and resolve. One evening, as you and Thomas sit in the study, reviewing documents, a letter arrives. It's sealed with the familiar wax crest, the Darrow family crest. You exchange a glance, and before you even open it, you know that Lady Darrow is not finished with you yet. The letter is an invitation, of course, to a high-minded society gathering, one where many influential people are expected to attend. The invitation is polite, but it carries with it a sense of challenge. Lady Darrow knows the influence she holds, and she's making it clear, but she expects you to attend her event. Thomas looks at the invitation, his jaw tightening slightly. She knows how to make an entrance, he says, his voice low. This is her way of testing us. Testing our resolve. You nod, the tension in your chest growing. But we can't back down. We've chosen our path, and now we must see it through, no matter what comes. The day of the gathering arrives, and you prepare with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The Darrow family estate is as grand as you've heard, a sprawling mansion that seems to encapsulate all the wealth and power of London's elite. As you step out of the carriage with Thomas by your side, you feel the weight of the evening settle around you. The event is every bit as formal as you imagined, an array of influential men and women, all carefully curated and dressed in their finest attire. You and Thomas step into the drawing room, your presence immediately noted by those around you. You exchange polite greetings, your smile practiced, but beneath it, you can't shake the feeling that everyone's watching you, waiting to see if you'll falter. And then, you see your Lady Darrow standing at the far side of the room, surveying the guests with a look of quiet power. Her eyes meet yours, and for a brief moment, you feel as though she's silently measuring you, testing you once more. You can't help but feel the weight of her gaze, as if she's daring you to prove yourself. The evening unfolds with careful conversations, polite pleasantries, and carefully chosen words. Lady Darrow doesn't make a direct move to engage with you, but you can feel her presence looming over the entire event, a constant reminder of the world that you're trying to navigate and challenge. Yet, as the night wears on, you find yourself growing more confident. You are no longer the young woman who would shrink under the weight of society's expectations. You are Mrs. Fairchild, a woman with purpose, with a vision, and with the strength to face whatever challenges may come. As the evening draws to a close, you and Thomas make your way to the exit. Outside, the night air is cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the warmth of the Darrow estate behind you. You look at Thomas, your heart racing with a mixture of emotions, relief, excitement, and the realization that this journey is far from over. We did it, you say, your voice barely above a whisper. Thomas looks at you, his expression soft but resolute. Together, Jane, we will continue to face whatever comes, side by side. And as you walk away from Lady Darrow's mansion, you realize that, no matter how many challenges lie ahead, you and Thomas have already built something that can't be undone. Together you will continue to carve out your place in this world, and no matter what society expects, you will create your own legacy. The days following the high-minded society gathering at Lady Darrow's estate pass by in a blur of both relief and tension. You and Thomas have learned a valuable lesson from that night. No matter how hard you try to escape the weight of public perception, There will always be those who will try to pull you back into the rules they've set for you. Yet the gathering also solidified something in both of you. You may not be able to control the judgments of others, but you are in control of your own actions, your own intentions. As the weeks go by, you both continue your charitable endeavors. The whispers and sideways glances from the London elite remain, but you've learned not to let them define you. Your work continues, and with each small victory, each positive change you see in the lives of those you've helped, you grow more resolute. The constant reminders from society, from Lady Darrow, become background noise to the purpose you found in your marriage and your efforts. And then, one afternoon, as usual with Thomas in the study, a letter arrives. It's from Lady Darrow. Another invitation, you ask, raising an eyebrow, as you break the seal and unfold the parchment. Thomas glances over, his expression unreadable. Let's see what she has to say this time, he mutters, though there's a flicker of curiosity in his voice. You begin reading aloud, your voice steady as you take in the carefully written words. Mrs. Fairchild, I trust this letter finds you well. I would like to extend an invitation to a private gathering at my home next week. I have thought much about our previous conversation, and I would like to discuss matters further. I believe there is much to be gained by aligning our efforts, should you be open to it. I await your response. Lady Amelia Darrow. You finish reading, the silence hanging between you and Thomas. You can feel his gaze on you, waiting for your thoughts. She wants something, you say finally, your voice calm but with a hint of suspicion. She wouldn't be extending another invitation without a reason. Thomas doesn't answer immediately, his brow furrowed in thought. She's no fool. Perhaps she's seen our resolve and is now looking to test it further. Or maybe she's reconsidered her earlier assessment of us. You look at him, sensing the hesitation in his words. What do you think? Should we attend? Thomas leans back in his chair, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk. We've been careful, Jane. We've made our mark, but we've never fully engaged with her or her circle. And say we have two choices: we either continue to hold our ground, avoiding the influence of those like Lady Darrow, or we engage with her directly and see if there's an opportunity to turn this to our advantage. The thought of engaging with Lady Darrow is tempting, but it also feels like stepping deeper into the world of politics under influence you've been trying to navigate carefully. However, there's a part of you that knows you've come this far. The stakes are too high to retreat now. We can't shy away from it. You finally say, your voice steady. We've built something already, and I refuse to let her or anyone else dictate what we can or cannot do. Let's go. But we'll go on our terms, Thomas. He smiles, his eyes warm with pride. I knew you to say that. Together, the night of Lady Darrow's private gathering arrives, and you and Thomas arrive at her estate with an air of quiet confidence. The grand mansion is even more imposing in the evening, its dark silhouette framed against the night sky, the flickering light of gas lamps casting long shadows on the cobblestone drive. You feel the weight of what's to come as you step from the carriage, but there's a sense of determination in your stride. This evening is about more than just diplomacy or social climbing. It's about showing Lady Darrow, and everyone in that room, that you are not to be underestimated. Lady Darrow greets you both at the door, her smile polite but cool, as always. Mrs. Fairchild, Mr. Fairchild, I'm so glad you could join us this evening. You exchange pleasantries, but you can sense that this is not a casual gathering. The room is filled with London's most influential figures, each one carefully curated. As the evening unfolds, you engage in conversations with several of Lady Darrow's guest businessmen, politicians, and society women, all of them sizing you up in their own way. But through it all, you remain composed, aware of your place in the room, yet determined to make your presence felt. Lady Darrow finally approaches, a knowing look in her eyes. It seems you've adapted quite well, Mrs. Fairchild. I must admit, I've been watching your efforts. They've garnered more attention than I expected. You nod, meeting her gaze directly. We're doing what we believe is right, Lady Darrow. But I don't think the attention is the point. The point is making a lasting difference. Lady Darrow's smile widens slightly. Yes, of course. But you must understand that power comes not just from doing good, but from knowing how to wield it. And that's what I've been trying to tell you, Mrs. Fairchild. The world doesn't reward those who play by the rules alone. It rewards those who know when and how to bend them. Her words send a chill down your spine, but you hold her gaze unwavering. You've come this far and you're not about to let her or anyone else dictate your path. And that's why we're here, Lady Darrow. To make our own rules. To carve out a space where we can do it right without compromise. For a long moment, she simply looks at you as if weighing your response. Finally, she speaks, her voice soft but pointed. Perhaps we can work together, Mrs. Fairchild. There's a great deal of power in aligning our efforts. I think you and I might find they have more in common than we originally thought. The offer hangs in the air, and for a brief moment, you feel the weight of the decision before you. To accept her offer would mean a partnership with one of the most influential women in London, a chance to strengthen your cause and ensure its survival. But it would also mean accepting the rules she plays by, bending them to suit her own interests. You look at Thomas, who gives you a subtle nod of support, as if to say, it's your call, Jade. Whatever you choose, we're in this together. I think we have different ways of going about things, you reply firmly. But that doesn't mean we can't still make a difference. Perhaps we'll find common ground, but it will be on our terms, Lady Darrow. Her smile fades just a little, but she nods, understanding that you've chosen your own path. Very well, Mrs. Fairchild. We shall see what comes of this, won't we? As the evening draws to a close, you and Thomas make your way back to the carriage, the weight of the night's conversation settling over you. There are no guarantees, no promises of success. But you both know one thing for sure: you're no longer playing by anyone else's rules. The world, with all its pressures and expectations, may never fully embrace your efforts. But with each step you take, you feel more certain of one thing: you and Thomas have carved out a life that's yours, and that's worth more than any amount of approval from high society. As the carriage rolls through the streets, you lean back, your eyes gazing out at the city. The future, though uncertain, seems full of possibility. You've learned that the only way forward is together, and that no matter what comes next, you have the strength to face it.